That is correct. We are going over the best future Neovision awakenings. These are going to be awakenings for your old 5-star base characters into the Neovision forms. This video is sponsored by the Amazon App Store and Amazon.com. This time, guys, we're bringing in the global players a great deal for the Amazon coins system in War of the Visions. In 3 easy steps, you can gain access to this system, saving up to 20% on in-app purchases. And the special offer this time is that there's 2 different bundles that you can get where you will always save 20% off. Usually that is discount of 20% is reserved for the higher tier bundles, but there's 2 different ones for you guys. There's be links down in the descriptions of this video for you guys to check that out. This is a limited time offer, so if you are someone that is going to be making in-app purchases in War of the Visions or in other games, check out the Amazon App Store version of War of the Visions. It's the one that I have used all throughout War of the Visions, as well as several other titles when we've been producing content for those games, guys. I've used it. I love it. Customer service is great in my opinion. That's the greatest experience I've ever had with the customer service department. It's safe and it's free to go ahead and swap on over to that App Store. Links will be in the description for you for the ability for you to go ahead and transfer over as well. So thanks again to Amazon. Let's get into the content for you guys. All of the characters that we know of in the future, these are the ones that I picked out. Top tier the litter. We are going to have a entire Neovision tier list eventually. Well, that'll be later on at the end of this month, but for right now, let's get into this, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, there's a little bit of a cheat because he's coming out this week, but that shows just how strong he is. He does make the list. All right, he's going to be coming out tomorrow. It's going to be Pyro Glacial Lasswell, so he's going to be a very strong damage dealing chaining unit, and I put him on here because physical units are just that good, and he's going to be a chaining character in a competition with, you know, Tifa, who is a very high burst damage character. He is a very high consistent damage character. So let's go take a look at what he has here. His Brave Shift is not available until turn 3, and it lasts 3 turns. So you have to wait for him to get into it. But good news for you guys out there, he does have some very nice skills to be using. So he's going to be getting a Grandis ability here, 2 uses per battle. Physical damage, 40 times mod with ignore 50% defense. That's an 80 times mod with an 80% defense break. Absolute Mirror of Equity, Chaining Frame Family. His Brave Shift ability that you get in here for his Brave abilities, you have to level it up to level 5 here, is going to be 49 times mod, Absolute Mirror of Equity that ignores 50% defense. So it's going to be a 98 on demand. No strings attached, you know, just cost MP, no cooldown, nothing. 98 mod, Absolute Mirror of Equity with both Fire and Ice, 120% in peril. He's going to have permanent triple cast for himself there. He also has the ability to do a 60 times mod, Absolute Mirror of Equity, Chaining Frame Family skill. That gives you 6 LB gauge. And his LB in his base form really ain't all that strong. All right, 12 times mod there, still isn't that good, even with the 50% ignore defense. The 6 LB gauge is really for his Brave Shift form, and then he also is going to have a couple of passives here, a little bit of extra defense and spirit, and some multipliers to his old skills, as well as a base MP increase, as well as specifically 150% Dragon Killer and some more base stats. So nothing crazy in his passives. Remember, he does still have the True Dual Cap, so that's going to be fantastic for you guys there. He does have that, and he's a true dual-based character. But 98 times mod, 80% defense ignore, and can fill his own LB gauge up to 18 crystals in a single turn. What does this mean for his Brave Shift ability? Let's go check out his Brave Shift form here. He still has that 6 LB gauge crystal Brave Shift ability. His other ability, though, is going to be a 96 times mod Ice Locked, and this also is going to be Absolute Mirror of Equity. So if you want him to do non-Ice Lock damage, normal mode still has that 98 mod on demand. If you want him Ice Locked, Absolute Mirror of Equity, go into his Brave Shift form. That's going to be a good thing for you to do there. But the other thing that you can do here in his Brave Shift form is utilize those LB crystals you've been building up here, because he has another Grandis ability over here. Ice damage, 120 times mod, gives him a 150% LB damage buff for 2 turns, and this also is an Absolute Mirror of Equity skill. 300% attack buff on a cooldown skill here for 4 turns. Has an Ice Imbue on this side as well. And his limit burst here is going to be a little bit reminiscent of what we've seen with Neovision characters. His LB is coming in for a massive 130 times mod, 7 hit skill, so it's not the highest in the game. It's not like Tifa's, you know, 160 times mod with a 250% buff, but he does have a 150% buff and a 130 times mod skill, but he does do much better chaining damage than she does. Triple cast, go in there, 96 times mod, 98 times mod. Very strong, very, very strong damage dealer to have access in your repertoire there, and that is going to be Pyro Glacial. Lasswell, had to name him because he's just so good. He's just so easy to use, and a lot of you guys out there, especially veteran players, if you want a chaining character, easy to use, that's one for you right there. Now, next up is going to be Sacred Shield Charlotte, actually. It does have a Neo Vision Awakening. This is old 5-star base Shiji Charlotte, and she's going to be able to help you mitigate damage, mitigate even uncoverable damage, which is going to be very nice and become even tankier. Now, her Brave Shift is available on turn 1. The duration is only 2 turns. The turn you turn into her and the turn afterwards. After that, you have to wait another 6 turns to go back into her Brave Shift. So it's a very, very, very powerful sort of almost cooldown to use with her because she gets so strong in that form. That being said, Shiji Charlotte is already incredibly powerful in her base form, and she's going to be getting additional utility there. So she's going to have a Brave ability, level 5 here. She's going to be able to mitigate magic damage against demons and reapers for 3 turns to your whole party there. So that's going to be a little bit more beneficial than what we've seen before. I know I've talked down about these abilities, right? Because they've been like 5%. 10%. Sacred Shield Charlotte can get some really strong mitigation here. As you can see with her other Brave ability is for herself. It's going to be a magic cover, and she's going to take 70% less damage from demons and Reaper monsters for 4 turns. That's a large amount of extra mitigation there. So you're looking at like another 20, 25, 30% mitigation, actual damage reduction because of how damage mitigation stack on top of each other. They're not additive. You can't have, you know, 80% cover mitigation and 80% physical mitigation and 80% magic mitigation and 80% general mitigation and 80% demon mitigation and become, you know, 200 and bajillion effect immune to different damage mitigations out there. They're multiplicative, so you kind of basically multiply them together. But that means that the tiny ones, like the 10%, the 5%, they don't really matter that much. But when you start getting to like 30%, 70%, that is pretty strong there. Now, she also does have the ability to chain Bolting Strike as well, and she does have base dual cast. On top of that, she has a Provoke that gives herself auto re-raise and a 5,000 HP barrier to help add to her bulk there on top of that. So very nice abilities here for her base form. And you know, remember, she's still a fantastic character. She still has the awakenings for the big mitigation on magic damage for your team. Magic mitigation 80% for 2 turns to all allies. You're going to be seeing more of this in her other form, so keep that in mind. Very cool stuff there. And for her Neo Vision passives here, she's going to get dark resistance on top of her ice and light resistance, and then she's also going to be getting some multiplier increases for some of her skills there. Nothing super insane though in that regard. Her limit burst just doesn't really change. I don't think at all. I don't think they changed that at all. It's already too good. 22 limit burst crystals, puts up your magic cover, and gives your team 50% general mitigation for 4 turns. Both of those effects are just fantastic. So what does she do in her Brave Shift form? You Brave Shift her on over. She still has the 30% Demon and Reaper mitigation for your party. She still has base dual cast here. She still has the Provoke, and she still has the Barrier. And then on top of that, she still has the Demon and Reaper mitigation, but it's going to be 86% this time. And then she's going to have this Grandis ability here. So 1 use per battle, unique selection on the multicast. It's going to be another way to mitigate magic damage for your whole party. This one is going to be mitigate magic damage 90% for 2 turns to all allies, 300% spirit buff for 2 turns to all allies, and it's going to make your entire team immune to spirit break for 2 turns as well. Now that last one you might already have covered with a support or some other type of character, but this is going to be very strong in conjunction with her base form for just mitigating magic damage for a long amount of time, because you're going to have the cooldown skill on normal form Charlotte, and then when that wears off, you can be able to swap into this Charlotte, put this one up. It's going to be pretty powerful. It's going to be on demand. You know, cooldown skill into this one, change back, you know, maybe get your cooldown skill back up, use that one again. That's a lot of magic mitigation there. On top of this, she already has, in addition to that, 75% general mitigation on top of that for herself. So she's going to have cover mitigation, 75% general mitigation while she's in this form, 90% magic mitigation while she's in this form. You're already going to have your cover up from the base form. She's going to be very tanky. And then on top of that, guys, she's going to have even better passives. So she's going to have that dark resist passive 50% in this form. She's also going to have 100% light and ice resist. That's going to be pretty powerful. 300% high tide, 4 LB gauge per turn is her trust ability in this form. It's going to help you get that limit burst back up ASAP, almost to the point where it's very, very possible that you use the limit burst in the normal form, brave shift in this form, use your Grandis ability, use your other thing for the general mitigation, and then get the limit burst back up and use that just in time before you leave. But on top of that, she's gonna be even easier to gear, because look at this last passive. 100% HP when equipped with a sword, 100% HP when equipped with either a light or heavy shield. So you slap a sword on her, you slap a heavy shield on her, that's 200% HP in passives in that one ability, and she has 80% draw attack. So that 80% draw attacks means you're gonna be using one piece of gear. Even if you've missed out on the Moogle Charm in the past, you can use something like the Wrap Gift or the K Producer's Jacket or something, and you're gonna be able to max out her spirit, max out the elemental resist in this form. She's gonna become a giant wall, not only for herself, but for your entire team there. It's gonna be fantastic. And then her limit burst here has changed from her base form. This is another way for her to mitigate magic damage. So it's going to put up her magic cover again for 4 turns. 80% proc rate, 60 to 70% mitigation on the cover mitigation for 4 turns. And it's going to give you a 80% magic damage mitigation for 2 turns, all allies, and recover 500 MP for herself there. And it's going to be a 22, once again, crystal LB cost there. So she's a fantastic character. Obviously, her main downside is the fact that her Brave Shift has a 6-turn cooldown, but she's just all around just a great character to have access to. She's probably the magic tank that I'm going to be using for a long time, for a very long time. And look at that Brave Shift form. She says, come at me, bros. I have all of the stuff. I'm ready to roll. So let's go more into some supportive aspects here. And what other than support than Summer Lid and Fina? Summer Lid and Fina get even better than they were before. I think a lot of people are still using her, but maybe less so now that we have high tier breakers. Well, sweat none. You're going to be good to go. If you're wanting to use her again, she's going to have excellent stuff for you to use. So she's going to be gaining higher imperils, higher breaks all around. She's going to be getting ability awakenings at some point too as well. So let's check this out. Neovision form, base form, Grandis ability, 1 use per battle, okay? Fire, ice, lightning, water, and earth. 5 different elements, 120% imperil for 3 turns, all enemies there. On top of that, she has a Brave ability here, leveled up to level 5. It's going to be a 58 times mod. Doesn't matter in this form, but it could in the other one. And it's going to be an attack, defense, magic, and spirit break, 84% for 3 turns to 1 enemy. She's going to have baseline triple cast as Neovision, which is pretty cool because that kind of means you don't really worry too hard about leveling and equipping her trust ability or super trust ability here, because that's what gave her her double cast before. Now she has baseline triple cast, so that eases your gearing on her. On top of that, her other Brave ability here is going to be MP refresh. And then you're going to have access to some ability awakening, so you can get 75% Aqua Killer, things of that nature. I said it again. But she's also going to have the very prevalent 10% charm ability, right? That adds water imbue. But on top of that, it's in addition to that going to give 10% water damage increase on top of the imbue for all allies there. So another good reason to have her on your squad. So you're going to have higher breaks on demand, higher imperils on demand. And then her cooldown skill, the one that we use for auto revive and the 70% break, that gets an enhancement as well. 80% auto revive for 3 turns, all allies, and an attack, defense, magic, and spirit, 84% break for 3 turns to all enemies. That one as well gets buffed up there. On top of that, she's going to get a little bit more bulk, defense and spirit, 70%, as well as 2 LB gauge per turn there from the Neo Visions, and a little bit of MP percent and MP regeneration. Now, the interesting thing on top of that, so not only does she get better at her main job as a Neo Vision character, she also does a little bit of something extra if you have the gear for it. So if you brave shift her, her role changes. She actually becomes a true double hand damage dealer. So let's take a look at this one. This is pretty cool. I like it quite a bit here. So go into true double hand damage dealer. This is what she's going to have access to. So she's still going to have the MP regeneration here. She's going to have triple cast still. And then you're going to see some brave ability here. Level 5. It's going to be absolute mirror of equity. First 7 hits, 15 times mod. That final hit is a 74 mod. That's going to be an 89 mod on demand there. Chaining Frame family skill for you. She has a Grandis ability here, 3 uses per battle, unique selection, like all Grandis abilities do. This one's going to be a 110 times mod, and it's going to give her a 200% LB damage buff for 2 turns to the caster there. And then on top of that, she has a little bit of extra absolute mirror of equity skill. She's got a 50 times mod, AoE one. She has a 52 times mod that comes with a 300% attack buff to the caster there, using that primarily for the self-attack buff there. So she's very self-sufficient. She's got that roll taken out, ready to go for you. And she can come in here and chain if you don't have the gear to make her do damage. But if you do, she's going to be doing some extra damage for you there with the absolute mirror of equity. And then, of course, if you go ahead and look at her passive, she's going to have 200% true double hand there, attack passives galore, and she's going to be a good time there. So no LB damage in the passive, so you need to really gear for LB damage if you want to make this LB do some damage. And it's okay. It's a single hit, 120 times mod with 130% water and peril, 28 limit burst crystals to cost there. So pretty interesting. She gets better as a support. She does all the things that she already did, but better, with the 10% extra water damage, higher breaks, higher imperils, and then she just shifts into a very fine true double hand damage dealer. So keep that in mind. Now, speaking of a type of unit like this, Loren is also here. Very similar to Summer Lid and Fina. She is going to be surprising you with the amount of damage you can kind of do with this character here, as well as the amount of supportive capabilities that she is going to have access to. So Loren's coming in. NV Loren, she's going to be getting a 85% Grandis ability, 2 uses per battle. So you can use this 2 times, very strong. 85% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break for 4 turns to all enemies. 105 mod, it's a single hit skill, so it's like a chain finish skill. But most importantly, it removes all buffs from all enemies. Not buffs and debuffs, just buffs. So those enemies that, you know, you have them all broken and your imperils around them and you're ready to rock and roll, and they give themselves like a giant defense buff. You're like, I gotta remove all of this stuff and I gotta start all over. Not with this one. You can get in there, remove all those buffs, re-break them if you need to, and all your imperils are intact. All that good stuff is intact still. So she's got that going for her. She has a Stardust Ray Chainer. She has triple cast here, 120% wind imperil, 120% lightning imperil on her wind and lightning Stardust Ray skills. Both are 66 times mods there. She has a cooldown skill here for a 130% lightning, wind, and light imperil for the turn that you cast this, and then it goes away, so you can only get this imperil off and utilize this imperil the turn you cast it. That's the downside there. And then she has one of her main Brave abilities to look out for. This is going to be a damage dealing skill, 94 times mod Stardust Ray, but it's going to most importantly buff the multiplier of, most importantly, a skill she gets in her Brave Shift form by 25 for 4 turns to the caster. Keep that in mind as we go through this unit. She also has a very strong cooldown skill here. She's the master of breaking, ladies and gentlemen. 7 turn cooldown available on turn 1. It's going to be an 85% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break for 3 turns to all enemies. But most importantly, auto cast next turn the same skill. After that, it auto casts again the same skill for 3 turns. And then after that, it auto casts it one more time for 3 turns. So you get it the turn you cast it for 1 turn. The next turn it casts it again. That's turn 2. That's duration of 2. Then 3. And then it casts it again for 4. And then this one also lasts 3 turns. So you're going to be getting 6-7 turns of you know, breaks, depending on which ones you care about. The defense and spirit break, the attack and magic break. Very, very, very strong stuff here. This can give you ample time to swap into her other form and do what that form wants to do. And then last but not least, if you're out of the Grandis abilities, the cooldown, you know, didn't work out for you, you still have an 80% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break on demand in her base form there. For passive, she's just getting some multipliers to her old skills. Nothing's crazy there. No true dual mastery here for this character. But we go into her base form here, and very similarly to Summer, Fina, and Lid, she turns into a DPS. Sort of a powerhouse. So we'll talk about this. She has the on-demand 80% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break. If you need to re-break in this form, she still has that. She still has the 120% wind and lightning and peril skills. She still has triple cast. Then she still has access to the 130% 1 turn in peril there on her cooldown skill. And then she has access to a very important skill here. So this is going to be the skill that got buffed by that 25 times mod. Stardust Ray, it's 2 parts. The first 9 hits are a 3 multiplier. The last hit is a 100 multiplier. So this is a 103 mod, but it's split up between 2 different parts, which means that 25 mod is applied 2 times. So with that buff up, this is a 153 times multiplier on your breaking unit. Triple cast Stardust Ray. Very strong, but it gets better than that. So she also has access to lightning and wind imbues here on her Brave Shift form. She has a unique selection, Grandis ability, 120 times mod chain finisher to all enemies, so she can chain finish AoE as well if you need to do that. And then she also has access to a self 300% attack buff that also enables a couple of skills for 5 turns to the caster. Now on top of that, here's a big one for her as well. Her passive Brave ability, you're going to want to level this up. It gives her 500 extra attack. It's not 500 base attacks. You're not going to go through crazy, but whatever it is, your gear, your passives, after your true double hand, your true dual wield, you get 500 free attack on top of that from her Brave ability. So 500 free attack, then as well as 100% Aqua Stone and Reaper Killer there for you guys. So fantastic stuff to go and utilize there. Her trust ability in this form is also very nice. 80% attack as well as 100% true dual wield. So if you're using her STMR or TMR, that's a thing for you to utilize there. Sadly, she does not have the 6 times mod chain cap, so she's not going to be doing all these crazy mods with the 6 times mod chain cap. However, that being said, you can still make her a monster if you have a lot of true double hand gear, especially, you know, maybe you're going to put Cloud in your team, and or Loren in your team instead of your Cloud. You have that Cloud Super TMR. You can go ahead and build her, if you have the gear for it, true double hand, and make her do work for you with that 400% TDH cap. Just kind of like we used to do back in the day if people had a lot of the gear for Crown Prince Noctis and stuff. You don't need that stuff to make her good, but you can make her an absolute monstrosity, doing 6,000 something attack in combat with that 300% attack buff. Get that 2-handed weapon on her for that 2-handed variance, and just let her go, because that 153 mod, that is not the maximum you can get that skill to. But before we get into that, let's talk about the unlocked abilities here. The 2 unlocked abilities are going to be 130% imperils for either wind or lightning. They're also attached to a chain finishing skill that has a 98 times mod. So Limit Burst here is a 125 times multiplier that gives a 15 times mod increase, most importantly, to that skill that has a base 103 mod. So if you have both the LB damage buff up as well as the normal form buff up, you're looking at an additional 80 times mod. So this skill goes all the way up to 183 if you really want her to help you burst someone down. 183 times mod, triple cast. Very strong. Very, very, very strong. Very, 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 very powerful. Also, her Brave Shift, once you go into it, it lasts infinite turns. It lasts until you want to go out. Now, if you leave it, you have to wait 3 turns. Once you go into it, you have to wait a couple turns, and then you're allowed to leave it, and then there's a cooldown as well to go back into it. But that being said, she's got that long turn, 7-turn duration break. She's got the ability to re-break in this form as well, so you can set that up in the way. Oh, you're just gonna massacre people with Loren, and she knows it because she's putting on the dress. She's dressing light for the showdown of the century. So that's a couple of supports that also offer up the ability to do large amounts of damage with them, surprisingly. So let's talk about another character. Let's talk about healer. You guys have asked me, what is a good healer out of your pick? Neo Vision healer. Do I need Aerith? And all those times I've tried to answer, if you have CG Fina, you can kind of just hopefully wait for her. She's a very strong character when it comes to Neo Vision Awakenings. She has a main downside. Her Brave Shift, while it is available on turn 1, it only lasts the turn that you use it. So it only lasts 1 turn. Okay? And then you have to wait 5 more turns before you go into her Brave Shift form again. That being said, her Brave Shift form is not the only thing that's good about her. So let's talk about CG Fina here once again. Innate abilities here. Grandis ability, 2 uses per battle on this one. Unique selection and multicast as always. She does have dual cast here, so you can dual cast it. It's going to give an 80% HP auto revive for 6 turns to your entire party, and it's going to be a 100% spirit break resist for 6 turns to your party as well. So the fact that she just has on-demand auto revive, remember her limit burst already does AoE auto revive. So if her limit burst is not up, you can use this, then use her limit burst, and then use this, and then use her limit burst, and then her limit burst again. Very strong, very strong. On top of that, she also has a 40% general mitigation buff for 3 turns to your party that comes attached with a 4,000 HP barrier. So that's very strong as well. She also has a very good ribbon effect here. So it's a heal, 2,500 HP with a 28 healing mod attached to it. This is her Brave ability level 5, that it makes your entire party immune to Stop and Charm and immune to all status ailments in the game. The only thing that you're not immune to is Berserk and Zombie. You're immune to everything else with this, okay? Her other Brave ability is that same multiplier and heal, and also cures Stop and Charm. So she comes in swinging. She's got the full status ailment package. So if you guys are new players, you have maybe a Fina or two, or you're looking for something like this as a, you know, played the game for a while, even as a veteran player, she's very, very strong for you in those capabilities. And she still has all the other stuff that she used to do, right? She still has the 50% all element resistances from her awakenings, all of that good stuff. She has a little bit of multiplier increases on her passives, but that's it. And then as well as her limit burst here, which we talked about, GG, 100% HP auto revive, hasn't really changed. But let's talk about her Brave ability form real quick, her Brave Shift form. Brave Shift form, very simple, very sweet. Remember, you're in this form for one turn, so you can do one thing here. Now, she has a lot of cool stuff here. So, she has a couple abilities. There's another Brave ability that she gets. This is only in this Brave Shift form. It cures Zombie, so she can cure that as well. So, it cures Zombie, cures Attack, Defense, Magic, and Spirit Break, heals your team for a ton, 2,500 HP base with a 60 times heal mod, and also revives all KO'd allies. So, she's got a comeback button if you need that. On top of that, she has a very strong Let's Start the Game button because she has an Attack, Defense, Magic, and Spirit 230% buff for 4 turns to your whole party, as well as a 90% all element resist buff for 4 turns to your whole party, and an 80% HP re-raise for 4 turns to your whole party. No, this is not a cooldown skill. No, this is not a Magnus skill or a Granda skill. She just has this. It costs 170 MP. That's it. One, done. You're good to go. Buffs, resistances, and re-raise all in the same skill. Very strong way to start a fight out, in my opinion. She also has the ability to do some support chaining in this role. Light magic damage, 64 times mod with spirit scaling. It's, I do believe, Stardust Ray chaining frame family. You can't dual cast or anything in this form, but this does hit 30 times, and it's, we've seen these skills before with like Rena and stuff where they have multiple hits of the same chaining family. So she hits with a Stardust Ray attack 3 times. It's basically like triple casting a 64 times mod Stardust Ray skill. They didn't want to give her triple cast, otherwise you'd be able to come into this form and start out with Cure Zombie, Attack, Defense, Magic. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be able to come in here and do all that stuff. So on top of that, the turn you transform into this character, remember, she has a 90% all element resist buff, right? As a passive Brave ability, she has all element resist 100%. Now, you're only in this form for 1 turn, so you can swap in here, start the fight, put everyone up 90% element resist, 200 and 30% attack, defense, magic, and spirit resist. So that's going to make her, with no gear, 190% resistance to all elements. So she is not going to take any elemental damage unless they, you know, debuff you or with like a 400% imperil or something crazy. She's not taking that damage. It's just not happening until she comes back to your turn and she swaps back to normal form. On top of that, she's got 12 LB gauge fill per turn from her trust ability in this form, and a 400% high tide buff. She's also immune to charm, sleep, silence, and paralysis. Very strong, and stop on top of that. So this is like, she like becomes invincible. She becomes your invincible goddess in this form. And then her limit burst here is okay. It's something you could use. It does light magic damage, 110 times mod with spirit scaling. Not really using it for that, but it does remove all buffs from your enemies, and it removes all debuffs from your allies. It's not a full cleanse on everyone of everything, but it removes all the beneficial stuff from the enemy and all the negative stuff on your team. So very, very strong there. If you want to transform into this Brave Shift form for that ability, that is also a powerful option. And remember, this 12 LB gauge per turn, that's the cap in the game from gear and everything. It's crazy. She's auto-capped an LB fill and 400% high tide in this form. So more than likely, you swap into this form at the start of the battle, you use that big buff there, and when you swap back, you're going to be ready to go with the normal form's limit burst to put up re-raise again if you really need it. You can start re-raising cheese on demand. So I'm saying that Grandis ability looks kind of bad. You know, auto revive 80% HP for 6 turns. You only use it twice per battle. That's gonna be there for you to fill holes in your auto re-raise to permanently have up auto re-raise between her limit burst and her Brave Shift form, given the limit burst, all that good stuff. That's what it's there for. And her sprite kind of looks the same in each form, I'm telling you. Anyway, talking about healers and support type characters, listen up, guys. We have the other Seaside squad. We have Citra and Folka here coming in. They were like the weird tanky, kind of like a support, but like kind of really not a support, kind of not a damage dealer type of character. And they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I do like them pretty well. So let's go down in here and check them out. They have a Brave Shift ability available on turn 1. Lasts infinite turns, and then to Brave Shift back, you have to wait 2 turns. You have to wait 2 turns again to re-Brave Shift if you want to do that. So keep that in mind, but you can Brave Shift right away. You can stay in either form as long as you want to. The only time there's a cooldown, just like there is for some of the other units, you can't swap back and forth every turn. Every turn you have to swap back and forth every other turn, basically there. Now let's take a look at her normal abilities, her Neo Vision abilities that she's going to gain access to here. 6 turn cooldown available on turn 1. 200% attack defense, magic, and spirit buff for 5 turns to your party, as well as 90% water and light resistance for 5 turns as well. Her Grandis ability here has the ability to remove all status ailments, as well as stop and charm, restore 70% of your team's mana, and give a 70% HP auto revive for 5 turns to your party there. She has a Brave ability here that grants a 5,000 HP barrier and gives you 3 evocation gauge crystals. She also has permanent triple cast in this form, so you can get in there, spam your HP barriers, remove your stop and charm, give that buff, all that good stuff. She also has access to a 120% light and peril, and then you're going to gain access to a couple passives down here as well. The free defense 100 and a 10 times mod increase to some of this other stuff. So she's kind of like more of the same, but she has more supportive capabilities, more of a reason to be in your party. So what else is with her? So let's talk about the Brave Shift form. Remember, you can stay in this form as long as you want. This is going to be the supportive / damage dealing side form. So you can put her in your party for the buffs and the ailment cures and all that good stuff. And then you maintain the light and peril in this form. She still has the triple cast in this form. And then she has a 90 times multiplier light magic damage that scales off your spirit. And it's going to be Absolute Mirror of, not Absolute Mirror of Equity. It's going to be Chaos Wave Awakened Chaining Frame Family. Chaos Wave Awakened Chaining Frame Family. Anytime you see Mystic Cross, if you're following along, it's going to be Chaos Wave Awakened. They've been changing that, and they still have been for the past year or whatever it's been. Always Chaos Wave Awakened instead of Mystic Cross. On top of that, she also has a Grandis ability that is a 100 times mod Chaos Wave Awakened Spirit Scaling Light Magic Damage type skill there. She also has 1 use per battle, unique selection on multicast. In case this ever becomes relevant, I don't think it ever will be, but a 100% charm chance to an enemy. Don't know if we're ever going to need to charm an enemy boss. I don't think we ever will, but it's there. Really not all that great. She also has an 8 turn cooldown that enables her spirit buff of 250% for 5 turns to the caster, increases her Reaper Killer for magic damage by 5 turns as well by 100%. Also gives her quadruple cast there. If you go down and look at her passive, she has base dual wield. She does not have 6 times cap true dual wield though, but she has resistance to all status ailments, water and light resistance, and a 150% true dual wield spirit. So she's going to be very, 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 very tanky and easy to use sort of character there. Her limit burst isn't that great. Light magic damage 85 times mod with spirit scaling, and it's kind of just worse than her just quadruple casting her skills, right? So very cool stuff here. She's going to be using magic killers. She's going to be very reminiscent of like Zhuanglu Xinglong back in the day, but she doesn't have 6 times mod cap, and they have, you know, the 6 times mod cap. They use physical killers, but they have like 60 times mod, and she has 100 times mod, 90 times mod. So they're going to be very reminiscent of each other there. If you didn't get access to that, you want a bulky, high spirit sort of damage dealer that has a lot of support capabilities, this character might be good for you there as well. And remember, she's going to have quadruple cast on top of that. So she's not going to, you know, rocket anyone into the stratosphere that's a new mage or anything, but she's going to be unique in that aspect. And that's really what all these characters are. Pretty much unique in what they can give. They're very versatile. That's what makes them very cool in this Brave Shift sort of Neo Vision-esque environment. Now, I will talk about them real quick because I know I'm going to get questions on them. They're not technically a part of this because they don't really stand out for me. But mages, what mages should I be looking at for Neo Vision Awakening? So mages are all kind of sort of the same thing, right? So we have like Blossom Sage Sakura, we have like characters like Emperor, we have characters like Old Dark Fina, and we have characters like Kefka. Eventually, I think he's the newest one that just got a Neo Vision Awakening in JP. Kefka is the best one, but they all suffer from the same thing. They're all old characters, and none of them got the 6 times mod cap for true dual wielding, which is a problem because that's what makes the new mages really strong. That's what makes, you know, when CG Kuja came out and Ram and Ace, that's what kind of put them over the edge of everything else. These characters do not necessarily have access to that. They're, you know, they do have some true dual wield, some of them, but they're mainly held back by that point where they do not have the 6x mod chain cap for true dual wielding, which is going to hold them back. But at the end of the day, they are still a Neovision character, and they all look kind of the same. I don't want to go over all of them. You know, they all have the, I do, you know, a 60, 70, 80, 90 times mod quadruple cast. My limit burst is kind of okay. They're all just kind of whatever, right? They're all just kind of whatever. Archmage Kefka is like the neatest one because when he's in Brave Shift form, he gets kind of spooky. But on top of that, he actually gets a little bit of interesting side stuff. He does have the ability to do some cool stuff. He does have a 84% defense and spirit break, which is pretty nice there, but he has the ability to imbue your allies or himself with human, beast, or avian killer for 2 turns as well. So this could help out in something like Dark Visions. Yes, this 229 mod. I know you guys saw this. You're like, 200, how? 229 mod? That's insane. I'm pretty sure it's attached to this skill here, so it's non-elemental. Chain finishing skill unlocks fire force. It's just, you know, it's just whatever. It's kind of just whatever. They're all, you know, they're all held back, like I said before, by the same sort of facet. None of them are super crazy. I only want to talk about them because I knew if I didn't put a traditional mage on here, you guys would be asking about which mage is the best one. They're kind of all the same thing. None of them are game breaking. They're just damage dealers for the most part. I think Blossom Sage Chakra has the second most interesting capability. She's got the ability to entrust if she has a full LB gauge, and she can give LB damage to somebody and imbue them with lightning, but not as much as something like Summer Folka did. So pretty cool stuff there. None of them have true dual wield 6x cap, but those are the ones to be looking out for, guys. There are other ones, but you know, if they didn't make the list, they just weren't that special or unique. And Lasswell's there because he's just such a solid chainer, and he's coming out this week, I guess. So I almost had to cut him and wait, but hey, what do you know? The more you know. So we're going to wrap this up. It's been a long time. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out. Thanks so much. If you want to see more stuff like this, you know where it is. Stay safe out there, guys. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.